If you've looked for this video, you're probably dealing with annoying car shaking or vibrating. Let's say you're waiting at a red light, and suddenly your steering wheel starts shaking, but when you're back driving, everything goes back to being fine. There are many reasons why this can happen, but I'll focus on the ones you're most likely to run into, and I'll also touch on some of the unusual ones. If your check engine light is on, prioritize addressing it, since it's an indicator that there's a problem. Whether you have a code reader or just visit any auto parts joint where they can provide a free code scan, it's a good starting point to figure out what's happening with your car. Now, when it comes to shaking and vibrating, the usual causes are your spark plugs, motor mounts, and things in the air and fuel systems. Let's address them point by point. Spark plugs. The spark plugs are the ones responsible for igniting the fuel in your engine, giving it the power it needs. If they're worn out, your engine's going to act up. To check them out, you have to pull them out. And when you do, keep an eye out for any signs of trouble, like oil leaking into the cylinder, which can mess up a spark plug immediately. Look for worn-out electrodes, or if the gap between the parts is too big or too small, or if the whole thing just looks beat up. Also, cars are supposed to have their spark plugs changed at certain mileages, so if you're not sure when yours were last changed, it's worth getting a new set, which is usually cheap. Motor mounts. Your engine stays put because of 3 or 4 spots called the motor mounts. These components are supposed to be made of rubber to keep the engine's vibrations from shaking up the whole car. But as they wear out, they lose the ability to keep the vibrations, which leads to decreased performance. Every car's a bit unique, but generally speaking, you'll find engine mounts on both sides and at the front and back of your motor. You can check them out one by one, but if you want to get a good feel for how they're holding up, grab someone to help you fire up the engine. Open the hood, put it in drive with your foot on the brake, and keep an eye on the motor. If it starts swaying back and forth when it shifts into gear, that's a sign your mounts might be getting worn out. One of the motor mounts that are usually easiest to spot is on the passenger side, and look for the rubber part. This should be solid rubber, but over time, it can start to crack and break apart. When that happens, it's bad news because then you have metal rubbing against metal. So keep an eye out for any spots between the engine and the car where things are making contact that shouldn't be. If one engine mount is in bad condition, it will have a domino effect as it puts extra strain on the others, which will lead to it wearing out next. If you're going to work on these mounts, get ready for some huge bolts. They're usually big and tight, so using an icebreaker bar and some big sockets is probably your best help. Fuel system. Now, the next thing that is causing a rough idle is the fuel system. Your engine's fuel system is important in ensuring the right mixture of fuel and air for proper engine performance. If this balance is disrupted due to contamination or misplacement of components, your car won't run as smoothly as it should. Over time, your fuel system can become clogged up due to factors like bad gas or the presence of ethanol, resulting in the gumming up of the entire system. To address this, use a bottle of fuel system cleaner and follow the instructions closely. Add it to your gas tank and allow it to circulate throughout the entire system to burn off the accumulated gunk and build up on components like valves, injectors, and fuel lines, with the hope of resolving your idling issues. But when it comes to fuel system cleaners, manage your expectations because it typically takes a tank or 2 of gas before you start noticing any improvements. Now, the main reasons behind rough idling in your fuel system are often the injectors and the valves. You can either remove the injectors and give them a thorough cleaning, or you can choose a more aggressive approach with a valve cleaner, similar to what we did for the air system. However, these methods are a bit more involved, so it's advisable to start with the fuel additive first, since it doesn't require any disassembly. Air system. The air system is responsible for bringing in air and mixing it with fuel in just the right proportions to keep the engine smoothly. But if this system springs a leak, or if it gets clogged up with dirt or contaminants, it can cause your car to start running rough. When you're checking out your air system, The air comes in through the air filter, but it's distributed all over the place within your engine. Then the vacuum leak kills your engine's smooth operation because air sneaks in where it's not supposed to. Vacuum leaks often happen through rubber hoses, which are usually the easiest to spot. Sometimes, if they're bad enough, you can even hear a hissing noise while the engine's running, which can help you track down the reason. Keep an eye out for cracks around the flex joints and any air hoses that connect to your manifold. Take a good look at the joints where they link up, and watch out for collapsed hoses, cracks, or splits. Depending on your engine, you might have some vacuum lines running behind your intake, so check out what's going on there too. Besides vacuum leaks or air leaks in your hoses, they can be on gasket surfaces, your throttle body, or your intake manifold. These aren't always visible, which makes them a bit tricky to spot. One trick is to grab some carburetor cleaner. With the car running, give it a spray around potential leak points. If there's a leak, the engine's idle will change as it sucks in the cleaner. If you're spraying and suddenly notice a drop or spike in your idle, you might have found a leak. This method might not catch tiny leaks, but it's a solid starting point for diagnosis. Your air system can also suffer from contamination, where oil, water, and dirt sneak in on various components, leading to rough engine performance. To address this, start by removing the main hose from the airbox. However, some cars might not allow you to run with this hose completely disconnected due to sensor issues. In such cases, you may need to reattach the hose partially, leaving a small opening for the cleaner's straw to go in. Just carefully read the instructions on the cleaner you're using, as different products may require you to spray directly into the throttle body. If cleaning the throttle body didn't resolve the issue, other components within the air system can be cleaned, such as the intake manifold and the idle air control valve. But it's worth noting that these repairs can be more involved and are not as commonly required. If you've checked all these and your car is still shaking or vibrating, there could be a range of other issues at play. Some are straightforward to pinpoint, while others might require a bit more work. Another reason for vibrations at low RPMs could be the belts. If they become loose or damaged, they can start flapping. Similarly, if the tensioner stops maintaining consistent pressure and starts shifting around, it can lead to an engine shake. You can also consider the harmonic balancer or crankshaft pulley located at the bottom of your engine. These contain a rubber ring designed to dampen vibrations. You can inspect your crankshaft pulley by examining it closely. Look for any signs of cracks, pitting, or deterioration in the rubber ring. If you spot any, it could be causing the vibrations. The final points we can consider here typically require specialized equipment. These include issues such as a malfunctioning torque converter, burnt-out valves within the transmission, or even potential computer-related issues with your vehicle. But if it's still not working after you've exhausted all these, visit your mechanic for further diagnosis and repair. There you have it, the main causes of shaking and vibrating in your car. If you enjoy videos like this, make sure to like and subscribe so we can assist you. Fix it.